And with that, I will introduce our guest speaker here tonight. It's a great pleasure to introduce you and welcome our past District Governor, Kathy Hansen, who served our district very well from 2016 to 2017. She's going to be doing our Marketing 101 tonight. There will be pauses in between where we can ask questions. We'll look at segments of this YouTube video, and then we'll pause it and open it up for questions. If you want to put a question in the chat box, that's perfectly fine as well. And with that, I'll give it to you, Kathy, and then I will start sharing my screen if you're ready.
I'm going to say a little bit before the video starts, but it's fine
Okay.
for you to, whatever. Well, thank you for that introduction, Deborah. As Deborah mentioned, I was district director 2016, 2017, and I actually began my journey in district leadership as a public relations officer back when that was the title of the role. It's now public relations manager. But I was PRO for 2 years, so I've been involved in marketing and PR for District 9 for quite some time, because that was back in 2012 when I was PRO. And I'm really glad that all of you are here today, because you really recognize that marketing your clubs could not be more important at this time. It's just a really critical time for us to be building our clubs. And Kyle Hall of District 32 has a highly effective approach, in my opinion. And if you have VPPRs and VPMs and others in your club who are struggling with marketing and recruiting new members, please encourage them to watch this video on their own. Some of you may have seen this video in our training last October. We'll be showing most of the video this evening. We're skipping up a short piece at the beginning because we'll be covering that next week in our club quality webinar. And as Deborah mentioned, we'll be pausing the video at about 5 points along the way, and I will be emphasizing some of Kyle's points, add some points of my own, tell how the points relate to our Operation Reignite Marketing campaign, and also answer any questions. In the first segment, we'll see Kyle refer to his handout, and if you haven't already downloaded a copy, we've, as we said, we put the address in the chat so that you can do so. It's not absolutely critical. I'm sorry, that's my, I can't, I don't think I can control that, but it'll stop eventually. Anyway, if you don't have the handout handy, you can just download it later. You don't absolutely have to have it in front of you. So as Deborah said, feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and I'll try to answer them as we pause for each section. So Deborah, shall we start the video?
Now.
Distinguished Toastmaster Kyle Hall. Where are they? Where are they? I remember standing there in my club at the opening of our open house, wondering where the guests were. We thought we'd done everything we needed to do. We put up flyers. We sent news releases to the local paper. We let people know we had food. We had an interesting program plan. We had one guest show up for the free food. I have seen multiple membership building events that were less than stellar successes. Maybe you get some guests in. Maybe one of them comes back. If you're lucky, one of them turns into a guest. And I had to believe there was something better than this. When I moved here to District 32, I was part of a club that had 12 members And when I said, hey, we need to do something to increase our membership, the officers started rolling their eyes, like, oh, we've done that before, you know, that doesn't work. So I sat and I did a little research. I did some research, and there are clubs that have doubled the size of their membership from one event. There are clubs out there that do events, specific events like a Speechcraft every year, and every year they get 4 or 5 new members from that event. There are clubs that make this work. So why weren't my clubs working? Well, after some research, I thought I understood how to put together a membership building event. And then Lance Miller came a couple of years ago, and he talked at one of our conferences. And more particularly, I bought a couple of his CDs, and he completely shattered my idea of club marketing and remade it into a bigger image. Now, you all have this. This is the Club Marketing 101 handout. There should be 3 pages in your packet. We're going to work mostly from page 1. But I mentioned Lance Miller. He produces several CDs that you can buy from his website. These are the 2 that I bought. I heartily recommend that your club buy a copy of each of these, and give it to your VP of PR at the beginning of the year to listen to. This you can play in any CD, car stereo. This you have to play on a computer. And I have no physical relationship with Lance Miller, so I'm not getting any money for this. I just think it's worth having. I'm going to talk today mostly about club marketing, how to get the word out there so you can get some guests in, get some butts in the seat. But let me ask you this. If a guest walks in, sits there and listens, observes your meeting, and at the end of the meeting they go, was it worth all the effort to get him in the door? No. No. I remember my first Toastmasters meeting. Now, I found it on my own because I realized I needed to increase my public speaking skills, and some people who were good at it said, go to Toastmasters. Well, I looked around, and there happened to be one in the building that met in the basement of the building next door to where I worked. I walked into that meeting, and I saw 3 what I thought were pretty good speeches. And then we had table topics, and that was fun, and there was a lot of laughter, and I really enjoyed the table topics. And then I saw 3 evaluators get up and tell the speakers who were already good how to get better. By the end of that meeting, I was going, wow, you could not drag me out of there before I wrote a check and filled out an application. They had what I wanted, and I was going to get it. Now, my question for you, ladies and gentlemen, is if you walked into your club, if you could take off your existing member mindset and put it aside and walk into your club like a brand new person who's never been to Toastmasters before, and you sat through one of your club's meetings, would you be saying, wow, I want this?
Okay, here's our first pause spot. And as you can see, Kyle has already started the piece about club quality, but we wanted to at least share the beginning to underscore the importance of having club meetings that will wow guests. Kyle has delivered this presentation many times, and this particular iteration of it was last February. So it was right before COVID hit. So obviously he doesn't get into the virtual aspects of club quality. So please attend next Friday's webinar for a unique perspective on club quality in the virtual environment. And Kyle also talks about the value of strong evaluations at your meetings. That's what he was talking about right before we paused. And we'll be am I correct that we'll be offering evaluation in the training session that we're doing on the February 13th?
Yes.
Correct.
So keep that in mind too. Now let's pick up the video after the club quality section.
Did
but
anyone have questions at
yeah,
this
that's
point? Sorry.
thank you, Deborah.
And I've got my little, if you have a question, unmute yourself and ask it. All right, we will move along.
Now let's assume you wow them. You need to bring them in, give them some literature, answer their questions, greet them, give them a chance to participate in the meeting, get their impressions. Does anybody here know the 5 magic words to turn a guest into a member? Would you like to join? Yes. Those are the 5 magic words. Would you like to join? I taught that in a president's officer training one year, and I said those are the 5 magic words, and we talked about other stuff. A week went by, and I got a phone call. Phone rings, pick up, hello. Guy goes, it works. Great, who is this? I was like, oh, I'm the president of this club. It works, what you said. I said, what are you talking about? He said, we had a guest come in, and at the end of the meeting, I said the 5 magic words, and he said yes. Remember, that easy. Why don't we say the 5 magic words? Why don't we say, would you like to join? Anybody? We're afraid of rejection. We're afraid of we'll be perceived as pressuring them. Let me ask you this. If I go up to Sherry and I go, do you want to join? Is that pressuring her?
Yes.
Hey, Sherry, do you think you'd like to join? Is that pressuring? No. Well, we have to get past that fear of rejection. Now, what's going to happen if I ask Kathy to join and she says no? What's going to happen? Exactly. Nothing's going to happen to me if she says no. The thing stopping me from saying it is just fear. Oh, it's fear. I can move through fear. I move through fear every time I give a speech. I can move through the fear of saying, would you like to join? And if she says no, then I say, that's okay. We hope you'll come back and be a guest. Come back as often as you want. No pressure. So we need to be able to ask those questions so that when we have a meeting that's wow, and we have guests and they feel like kings and we've treated them well, we can ask them to join. Now let's talk about how we get the guest in the door. So we're Toastmasters. What are we selling? Confidence, growth. Let me back up a little bit. Suppose we are all part of a corporation. We've all just joined together, thrown our money in a pot, and we bought a mattress store. What are we selling? No. What did you say? We're selling a good night's sleep. That's what we're selling, a good night's sleep, the experience of a good night's sleep. The vehicle by which you deliver it is mattresses. But we're selling a good night's sleep. Now, when we come back to Toastmasters, too many of us start talking to a guest about pathways, or the legacy system, or we do speeches and evaluations and table topics. We start talking about the details. Or spew out a bunch of acronyms. You can earn your DTM. And what we're selling, as Rayanne said, is confidence. Marcy said leadership. We're selling confidence in the ability to lead. We're selling confidence in the ability to speak. We're selling confidence in the ability to stand up and deal with any human situation. That's what we're selling. So why, when we put a flyer out there, does it say Toastmasters Speechcraft on the top? Or come to our open house? Anybody here want to go to an open house? No. If you were not a Toastmaster, would you know what a Speechcraft is? No. So why would you put that on the top of your flyer? But a lot of people do. What should be on the top of that flyer is confidence. Speak confidently, lead confidently, deal with confidence. Because that's ultimately what we're selling. Now, I'm moving on to section 3A on your handout. If you want to market your club, you're going to need a team. It's more than one person can do. One person can do some of it, and maybe if you're Superman, you can do all of it, but I think it's more than one person can do. So what are the types of things you need? You're going to need somebody who can write a press release. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. There are hundreds or thousands of examples on the internet. There are hundreds of, well, at least dozens of examples on the Toastmasters website alone of news releases. And it's not hard. It just takes a few minutes to look at it and go, oh, that's the format, that's what they want, and to put together a news release. You need somebody who can put together a flyer. It has to look good. It should not have stock imagery on it if you can avoid that. But you need somebody who can put together a flyer. Now, if you're going to use social media, anybody here use social media for your club? Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, something. Now, I often get asked, so should my club do Facebook? Should my club have a Facebook account? Should we market on Facebook? My question to you is, stand up and ask your officers, members, how many of you use Facebook? Well, raise your hand. Do you use Facebook? Raise your hand. Okay, almost everybody here does. If we were a club, using Facebook would make sense for us. If none of you raised your hand, or only 2 or 3 of you raised your hand, using Facebook wouldn't make sense. Why would you want to use something your own members don't use? Figure out what your members use and use that. Because your members can help you then. Let me give you an example. Most of my club uses Facebook. When we have an event, we will create a flyer for the event, we'll create a news release for the event, and then we'll take the event and we'll create it in the Squim Toastmasters Facebook page. Once they do that, we send an email out, okay, the event's created. Please go and like it and share it. So that way, everybody who watches what Kyle Hall is doing knows that Kyle likes this and is sharing, and I'm going. And the same thing happens for Lindy and Emmy, and and that way we use the club's network. But if your club doesn't use that tool, if your members don't use that tool, why would your club use it? What is the single most effective way of getting a guest in the door?
Hi, I'll drive you.
Okay, that's a version of the invitation, the personal invitation, and it's a great example. We'll revisit that in a minute.
Providing them information and being responsive when they ask you questions.
Almost. The single most effective way is the personal invitation. TI has studied this. By far, the most people who walk into a meeting walk in because they've been invited by one of the members. We'll talk about how to make those invitations better in a little bit. TI then says those people who walk into a meeting not having been invited, 95% of the people who walk into a meeting because and they were not invited by anybody, they walk in because they found your website. Now, if those people who walk into your meeting found your website, should you spend any time on your website? Yeah, at least a little bit. Get rid of the stock imagery. Get photos of your members standing behind the lectern or in front of the lectern speaking, and get those on the web page. When I joined the Squim Club, there was a photo of 10 people standing around a banner on our homepage. Guests don't care about banners, and they don't know what the banner is for. They don't understand it. And so it was a photo that had no meaning to the guests. Now our homepage is covered with pictures of people speaking and laughing. Also, make your homepage about the guest. A lot of clubs have their homepage. The homepage is talking about this is how we did last week. This is what we're going to do next month. Here we're having this potluck. We're going to do this summer barbecue. They're talking about member stuff. Put that on another page. Make the members click one more click to get to it. A guest coming to your website coming to your homepage should just find stuff a guest would want to see. Like, why should I join Toastmasters? Am I welcome? Can I show up without having called first? All those sorts of things. So get together your team, your flyer maker, your webmaster, your photographer. one of the other ones, for people who do Facebook or any social media sort of thing, how do you get material to go out on that social media site? Some clubs just have one person who takes photos, makes notes, posts it. One of the things I love, I've seen clubs where they have a postmaster. You have your Toastmaster, you've got your general evaluator, you've got speaker number one, speaker. We have postmaster. That person's job is to take a photo and find a quote from the meeting. A photo, maybe it's a photo of somebody getting best speaker or a photo of somebody, you know, doing something. Just get a photo that's usable and a quote, so they can put it out on the website, out on the Facebook page, and they should get it out there within 24 hours after the meeting. So, but you may have to teach some of your members how to do that. How do you take a photo, get it off your phone, get it onto the Facebook page? How do you create a post? Not everybody knows how to do that.
Okay, so Kyle starts this section by talking about closing the sale, asking people if they want to join. And this is such an important point that I want to underscore, that you ask for what you want. For example, I'm in business as an Airbnb rental host. A lot of hosts wonder how they can get great reviews for their places. And my solution is to ask for them. I tell my guests, if you enjoyed your stay, please give Hansen Woodland Farm a 5-star review. And the vast majority of them do it. You can't get what you want if you don't ask for it. So ask members if they would like to join. The point about selling confidence is huge, in my opinion. A few years ago, Toastmasters did a marketing study in which they learned that using the word confidence is extremely effective, especially with younger people. So all of your marketing materials should prominently feature the word confidence. Kyle spends a bit of time talking about writing press releases. And press releases, in my opinion, can be valuable in certain situations and for certain clubs. But for the purposes of our Operation Reignite campaign, I believe that press releases, for the most part, will be a waste of time for most clubs. And I'll talk a little bit more about press releases later in the presentation. Kyle makes a really good point that clubs should not use social media that most of their members are not already using. However, I would guess that the majority of members of most clubs are on Facebook. Clubs wonder whether they should have a Facebook page or a group, and my advice is both. A group is great for internal communication, rallying the troops, disseminating information. But a page is best for external communication to non-Toastmasters. And a Facebook page is especially important if your club doesn't have its own website. By the way, I love Kyle's idea of a postmaster, someone who takes photos in meetings and then posts them on social media with a quote or a caption. And that brings us to Kyle's next point, that 95% of those who walk uninvited into your meeting found your club's website and thus found your meeting. So for as long as I've been associated with district leadership in District 9, we've fought the battle to make sure every unrestricted club not only has a website, but an updated one. And at the same time, I know the difficulties of finding members with skills to manage a website and the continuity problems when the club loses its webmaster. But I also know how critical updated websites that target prospective members are to a club's success, and the clubs need to prioritize them. So if your website is not optimal, please reach out to your district leadership for help. It's also important that your club and meeting information are correct on Toastmasters International's Find a Club page. And that ends what I have to say about that section. Do we have any questions?
If you have a question, please unmute yourself. There's Mary.
Yeah. Kyle talked about posting photos, and I wonder if anyone's posting photo excuse me, photos off of their Zoom meetings. Is that easy to do? Is any experience with that?
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that I consider that actually way easier than doing it in a face-to-face meeting, because you could just easily do screenshots. I mean, they tend to look a little repetitive when you have all the little blocks and, looks like the Brady Bunch, but if you focus on the individual people, like I'm seeing you full frame on the screen right now, so I could take a screenshot of you. And in fact, I've done that for the newsletter.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Can
I think it's actually easier.
Yeah, there's a Snip. If you have a Microsoft computer, there's a tool called Snip Tool, and then you can say new, and you can just select what you want to take on the screen.
Yep.
And also, I've done from people's presentations, some of our members have created, little graphics and things, and I'll post those sometimes too with a little snippet about.
Oh, great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I would just clarify, for privacy issues, make sure you inform people you're taking their picture, and give them an option to not have their picture taken. Turn their video off or whatever they want.
Where is the Snip tool at, Hannah?
If you go into the Windows and just search for Snip, it should come up.
All right.
It's in different places on different computers.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe under accessories.
And there are third-party apps that you can get to do it too. I have one called Sketch that I use for screenshots a lot.
Usually, I'm sorry, Kathy. Usually what I've been doing, but I've been really guilty of not posting on our Facebook page, but I hit the Windows button and then I hit press print screen, PRTSD, and that takes the picture.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there's a keyboard way to do it on a Mac too, but I don't usually do it that way, so I don't know what those keyboard symbols are.
Any other questions? Sorry, Kathy.
I just had one. Would it be possible to turn up the volume on the video? Because it's
low? Is it low?
It's just a tad low. Thank you.
I'll max up my speaker and see how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. I'd like to know, bring out more confidence, make marketing confident, want to learn how to market confidence. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. As an example, we did a speech craft at Colville Toastmasters a number of years ago, and we actually made it about job seeking. So we talked about, we had confidence in the headline, develop the confidence to succeed in a job interview. It's just using that word confidence, even if your event doesn't center around the idea of building confidence, it just needs to be somewhere in your flyer, somewhere in your news release, somewhere on your website, somewhere in your Facebook post. Just try to use it as often as you can.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on here. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Just a minute. Where is it? Just a minute. There it is. Sorry.
Let me talk a minute about some of the classic mistakes in club marketing. And these are some of the things that Lance Miller helped me see through. I didn't see all these classic mistakes when I was figuring out how to run a single event. And one of the biggest mistakes we make is we run single events. We don't even think about marketing until we're looking and gee, our club's down to 12 members. Maybe we should get some more. Yeah, let's put together an open house. And we run the open house, we plan it, we execute it, it ends, and we don't think about it again. And whether we got members or didn't get members, we don't think about it, and we don't learn from it. And then 6 months or 9 months later, we run another open house. And again, it's a discrete event. We don't learn from it. We need to think about marketing our club as a continuous process. And it's a continuous process that we want to get better and better and better at. Now, one of the advantages of marketing as a continuous process is we can choose to narrow who we're targeting. We can go after a niche. Now, when I talk about this, one of the comments I get is, well, yeah, but everybody needs Toastmasters. Well, yeah, maybe everybody does need Toastmasters. But we can't talk to everybody. We can't market to everybody. Unless you're Pepsi-Cola or McDonald's or Coca-Cola, we can't market to everybody because we don't have billion-dollar marketing budgets. So if we want to market, it helps us to be market more effectively if we narrow who we're targeting. So one of the examples I like to give, in my particular area, there's a bunch of real estate people. Squim's growing, so there's a bunch of real estate people. If we decided to target real estate people, that would be a reasonable niche to go after, and we could figure out how to offer them something that might attract them to come to the meeting, so that we could then get them to join the club. Does that make sense? Now, I'm not proposing you go out and attract real estate people. I'm proposing you think about narrowing your niche. One of the reasons to do this is if you choose who to market to, if you choose a select group of people, it's much easier to figure out how to market to them, how to get your message in front of them. So let's take the real estate people. If I wanted to go and get a message in front of real estate people, how would I do it? What's that? Go to a real estate meeting, a real estate association meeting. Okay, how else?
Send flyers to real estate offices.
Send flyers to real estate offices. Talk to the brokers. Talk to the head of the real estate offices. Because especially if you're offering something like how to present, how to be a more effective presenter of a house. Well, the real estate people might like that, but the people who own the real estate offices would love that because they're going to send all their people. So it becomes really easy to market to them once you decide on the niche you're going to go after. Now, you might say, yeah, but I don't want to just go after a niche all the time. I don't want to go after real estate people all the time. Well, you don't have to. I'm not saying choose that niche and never move. I'm saying choose that niche and market to them for 6 months. This is a continuous process. After 6 months, choose a different niche. Go after a different niche. Now, during that 6 months, you're going to do a couple of things. You might have an open house. You might do a special speaker meeting. You might just pepper people with flyers talking about your club in general and letting them know how it could help them in their business. The point is, talk to the niche, work your process, and then after 6 months or 9 months, change the niche and go after a different group. And slowly over time, you get to hit everybody. So, first we're going to do real estate people, then we're going to do soccer moms, then we're going to do all the leaders and ministers in our churches, because some of those people need speaking help or leadership help. So you can change it over time. Here's my glasses. One of the other mistakes people make is they don't give themselves enough time for PR. There was a guy who gave a talk at a club, and he was talking about how you can put on an open house and be successful. Great. He was a good speaker. Great. One of the clubs that was at that presentation came up to him afterwards and said, "We really like what you're doing. Would you be willing to come and give a talk on courage?" I think he was talking about courage in firefighting and also the military. But would you be able to be willing to come and give a talk on courage in our club for an open house? He said, "Sure. When would you like to do it?" "Next month." Now, the talk I was at when I heard him was in November. Next month is December. How many people are going to go to an open house in December? Nobody. What's more, how effectively can you get the word out? Can you publicize the talk in less than a month? It probably takes you 2 weeks just to put the flyer together. Because, we do it as a committee, we mail it around, people don't respond instantly. It probably takes us at least a week, if not 2 weeks, to put the flyer together. I went to that club's open house just to see, Nobody. I mean, members were there. That was it. Nobody. The people who study marketing will tell you that you need to put something, people need to see something 5, 6, 7 times before they even notice it. So if we had a flyer on that wall about an event, you might have to walk past it 5 or 6 or 7 times before you see the flyer. It's been there, but you haven't seen it. And now suddenly the presence of the flyer enters your head and you go, oh, hey, there's a concert on that day. And what's more, I like the band. Okay. Now you can decide whether or not to go. Well, if you have to walk past something 5, 6, 7 times before you even notice it, we have to get our information out in front of the group, out in front of the public, as often as we can, as far in advance as we can. Figure if you're going to do some kind of event, getting the publicizing it, the actual act of publicizing it is going to take 6 to 8 weeks. You're putting flyers up around wherever you're going, real estate offices. You're sending out press releases to the newspaper, and you're also talking to brokers and whatnot. You are reminding people. You're sending emails out to friends and doing personal invitations. But all that PR takes 6 to 8 weeks. Now you have to plan that beforehand. So that means if it takes 6 to 8 weeks to market the event, to publicize the event, and a couple of weeks to plan it, if you're going to do something, that's a 3-month project. Doing an open house, well marketed, well promoted, is a 3-month project. Maybe a 4-month project if you don't want to hurry yourself. If you're going to do an HPL, add an extra month onto it. HPL is high performance leadership. For those of you, when you get to level 4 or level 5 in your path, some of you will be required to do an HPL, and some of you will have it as a elective, high performance leadership. It's a project, but there's a little overhead involved. Take however long that project you think will be, and add a month. So we need to give ourselves the time to publicize things. We also need to measure what's working. So for instance, suppose, let's choose a different group. Suppose we are not going real estate people. Suppose we're going after small business people. How would you go after small business people? How would you talk to them? Chamber of Commerce meetings. Anything else?
Walk the street.
Walk the street. Walk into businesses. Okay. I thought I should clarify that. Walk into businesses. Talking to people one-on-one. We all know small business people. You talk to the small business people that you deal with on a daily basis. Putting up flyers in small businesses. Maybe there's a small business newspaper in your area. It's probably, if there is, it's probably generated by the Chamber of Commerce. But Chamber of Commerce website, Chamber of Commerce calendar, Chamber of Commerce meetings. Anyway, you can get the word out. One of the things we fail to do is we fail to look at what works. We fail to measure what works. Measuring what is getting results is one of the fundamental operations in marketing. And it's not hard. It's really not. But a lot of us get intimidated by it. So let me give you an example of how you can make this work. Suppose we were going to put up 2 flyers and a press release. 2 flyers around town, 2 different flyers, and a news release. So we have 3 different vehicles by which somebody could find out about us. Well, I have a cell phone, and my wife has a cell phone, and I have an email. So on one flyer, we ask you to RSVP to my cell phone. On the other flyer, we ask you to RSVP to my wife's cell phone. And on the press release, we ask you to RSVP to my email. I can tell which one's working by where the calls are coming in or where the email's coming in. Really simple. Now, you may end up having 6 or 7 different things. We've got flyers here and cards here and news releases there and talking to the Chamber of Commerce in person. So you may have 5 or 6, but if you have a team of people doing this, across that team, you probably have 8 or 10 phones and a dozen emails by which you can measure whether it's working, what's working. And of course, if this is a continuous process, oh, we did this open house. This flyer generated calls. This one didn't. Gee, we're going to do another open house. Which one are we going to use? We're going to keep this one. We're going to jettison that one. And what we might do is keep this one and see if we can improve it. And now we'll have this one and the new improved version, and we'll measure which one's doing better. So over time, the vehicles we're using to communicate with our target market get better and better and better. The last thing I want to mention about this is if we have an event, so we have an open house or a speaker event or a business awareness campaign, we do something. There has to be a postmortem after the fact, a lessons learned. What did we do well? What could we do better? How do we make it better each time? Too often we don't learn, we just repeat the same mistake, and we wonder why we're not getting better results. But we're a learning organization, so let's practice learning.
Okay, so Kyle kicks off this section by talking about making events a continuous process, a regular, ongoing, scheduled part of your meeting programming, and I agree with him. When I first became a club VP PR, I set up themes for each month around which an event could be planned. Now, we didn't necessarily have an event every month, but we had a theme ready if we wanted to have an event. Some obvious choices are self-improvement for January when everybody's thinking about New Year's resolutions. The same applies in September, back to school time, when people are thinking about lifelong learning. You can also find on the internet lists of special days, weeks, and months and plan events around those. For example, there might be something called Communication Month or Mentoring Week or Effective Meetings Day. And, you know, I would not be at all surprised if there were not those very things. Kyle also talks about target audiences, and the idea of targeting audiences, I think, seems very counterintuitive when we're talking about something more specific than the general public. But it really works. And in the Operation Reignite campaign, we're suggesting several specific options for audiences to target. I'll talk more about that in the webinar that we're doing 2 weeks from tonight when I describe how to implement the campaign in your club. In the meantime, you can look at the pages that we've set up on the D9 site for specifics, and those are all the links that I posted in the chat, and I'll probably post those one more time in case there were people that came in late and didn't see them. Kyle also talks in this section about planning time for events, suggesting that 6 to 8 weeks for marketing and 3 months in total is optimal. In the Operation Reignite campaign, we're asking clubs to hold an event by June 5th. So 3 months of planning is certainly possible, but clubs may want to consider holding their events earlier to take advantage of the Talk Up Toastmasters campaign from Toastmasters International, which runs from February 1st to March 31st. We still recommend about 4 weeks of planning and marketing time. And then keep in mind that one of the options for Operation Reignite is Speechcraft, which takes a minimum of 4 meetings to present. So consider the extra time that may be needed for that option. And then Kyle talks at the end about a complex process for measuring results. And what he's talking about is called A/B testing. But I really think that the simplest way to measure your results is to simply ask every guest how they heard about your meeting or event, because, you know, whatever they tell you is going to tell you that that method was effective in bringing them there. So again, that's what I have to say about that section. And do we have any questions about it?
Yeah, I got questions. Okay, so marketing, since we're all online right now, a lot of us belong to different Facebook communities. Would it be appropriate to find one community and focus on them for 6 months?
I'm sorry, are you saying committees?
Community, like Facebook communities? Yeah, different.
Yeah.
We have different Facebook. Everybody's a member of a different Facebook community. And Would
think
it be
it's-
appropriate to market, I mean, not, but to focus on one community for 6 months, and since we're all online?
I think that's a really interesting idea. That's not something that I've thought about, but I certainly think it's worth a try. I don't know of any reason why it wouldn't be appropriate.
Because a lot of them say don't solicit or your business or anything like that. Something like they have rules you have to follow. So
Yeah, well, I would definitely recommend following their rules, but
I best I'll just get a hold of the site administrator or the community administrator and talk to them.
Yeah.
I know. I thought it was an idea.
Yeah, I think it's worth looking into.
Also, too, I'm looking for a mentor. VP, First President Public Relations mentor to keep me responsible.
Okay, well, you can always call on me.
Okay, I will.
Any other questions? All right, should we go back to the video?
All righty.
Now let's talk a little bit about some marketing basics. I already mentioned the single best way to get people in is personal invitation. How can we improve the personal invitation? So most of the time, our personal invitation is, hey, Gary, do you want to come to my club and check it out? Or a Toastmasters club, we teach public speaking, you want to come and check it out? Sure. Well, Gary said, sure. Most people go, no, thanks, but no, I'm busy that night. Now, if I'm asking Gary to come check out my club, what am I asking him? I'm asking him if he wants to come join my club. How many of us want to go join a club? We haven't seen it. We've never been there. We don't know what its benefit is. We're not impressed with it yet, but yet somebody's asking us if we want to join the club. I mean, it's implied in the invitation. By the way we invite somebody, it's implied. Would you like to come join my club? And so they say no, and we don't get them in. And after we ask them 3 or 4 times, they start getting annoyed with us when we bring it up again. So how can we change the nature of the invitation to get them to come? Well, Rayanne mentioned one. Hey, we're going to have a great meeting. I'll drive you. You want to come? I'll come pick you up. And what's more, I'll take you out for coffee when we're done. So it's blatant bribery, and you've removed the somebody has to drive, and you're bribing them with coffee or donuts or whatever your favorite is. That's one way to do it. Bribe them. Another way is, hey, I'm giving a speech this week. I've worked on it hard, and I'm really kind of nervous. Kathy, would you come and just be a supportive person in the audience, just to support me and encourage me? Would you do that?
We do this at our workshop all the time.
Yeah. It's a very different invitation when you're asking somebody to come and be a supportive presence because you're nervous. Or I'm giving my first evaluation. Now, this is especially useful if you get your newest members to do it. Coach them. Hey, you're a new member. You're going to be giving your first speech. Ask your friends to come and be supportive. A few months later, hey, you're giving your first evaluation. Ask your friends to come and be supportive. Hey, you're going to be Toastmaster for the first time. Ask your friends to come and be supportive. By this time, the friends have been there 3 or 4 times. They understand what's going on, and some of them might join. But the invitation is different. The other invitation is, Roxanne, you are an awesome storyteller. I love the way you tell stories. Would you come to this meeting? We're doing a meeting of storytelling. 1, you might enjoy it, and 2, you might be able to add some benefit to the group. That's a different invitation. That's respecting her expertise and trying to get her in. I used a technique on one of my neighbors. It hasn't come to fruition yet, but we'll see. I wanted to get him to come to the club. I'd invited him once or twice. He'd said no. And so I went to him, and I told him the truth. I said, I've been in this club a while. I have a hard time seeing this club with the eyes of a guest. And most of us who've been in the club have a hard time seeing our club through the eyes of the guest. Would you come to our club and pretend to be a guest who knows nothing about Toastmasters? He is a guest who knows nothing about Toastmasters. Well, would you come and pretend to be a guest who knows nothing about Toastmasters? And what I want you to do is I want you to notice, how are you treated? How do you feel? At the end of the meeting, are you confused about anything? Did you feel welcomed? Are you curious about the nature of the club? And after the meeting, I'll drive you home and I'll debrief you on this. And that way we get some feedback of how a guest sees our club. So that's what I call doing a Moments of Truth light. Rather than doing the whole Moments of Truth workshop, get a friend to come, pretend to be a guest, and take notes on the impression your club creates. And then you share those notes with your officers, so your officers have some feedback. Mike?
You want them to be a secret shopper?
Yeah, essentially being a secret shopper. Does everybody understand that websites and Facebook and things like that are essentially passive? You can post things on Facebook, but unless somebody's looking for it, or unless somebody is following somebody, they're not going to see it. Same thing with your website. Nobody's going to, you can change your website, but unless somebody comes looking for public speaking in Tacoma, or Federal Way, or Puyallup, or Squim, or wherever you are, they're not going to find it.
One thing that's irritating is you go to another website, and
Yeah.
the information is not up to date. I don't want to read about last year's events.
Okay, but if you're a Toastmaster and the clubs you're competing with for members don't have their websites up to date, I feel bad for them, but I'm not going to call them and tell them. Because if my website's up to date, then we're more likely to get the members. Now, I will tell you, I was area director over in District 2 years ago, and I was supposed to visit a club, an advanced club. I looked at their website. They meet at this restaurant on this day. I went to the restaurant, and I sat there. I was there for 20 minutes before I finally asked, where's the club? And the owner said, oh, they haven't met here in a year. They're an advanced club. I called up the president. I said, did you know that your website has the wrong address? Yeah. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, well, we'll get that fixed right away. So I checked back a few days later. The address for where they met was correct. The map was still wrong. You need to make sure your website is up to date. Last thing on websites. When I am now the webmaster for the Squim Club, and when I took it over, we're using Free Toast Toast. A lot of people use Easy Speak. A lot of people use Free Toast Toast. We had the same generic text that everybody else has on their Free Toast Toast screen. And I went, I don't want to be like everybody else. First, I got rid of the stock imagery. But the other thing I said was, okay, I went out on the internet and I searched for award-winning Toastmaster website. And I found a Toastmaster website that had won all kinds of awards for being a great website. And I read it. Yeah, that's pretty good. Copy. Took it over to Word, paste. Edited the heck out of it, took their stuff out, put our stuff in, made it my own, and then I took that and I replaced the text on our webpage. It was not a Herculean effort to do it. I'm going to take an award-winning website and liberally steal from them. That's what the internet's about. Now let's talk about outbound marketing. I already mentioned personal invitations. We've talked about that. Demo meetings. If you know what a demo meeting, anyone know what I call a mini demo meeting?
Basically, a mini Toastmasters meeting. Just condense it and show people this is how you do it.
Right. It's a 25-minute Toastmasters meeting. You have a Toastmaster, one speaker, one evaluator, table topics, and maybe one person being timer and out counter or something like that. And so 5 people can do it. And you can do it in 25 minutes. There are a bunch of organizations out there that are looking for speakers in the 25 to 30-minute range. Most Lions clubs, most Kiwanis clubs, most Rotary clubs, a lot of chambers, bunches of organizations or associations are looking for speakers on a weekly basis. The program managers for these groups, the people who are trying to book the speakers, they are desperate. You can call them up and say, I've got something. And they'll say, great, I'm booking you. What is it? Yeah. Right. You all saw that Toastmasters International and Rotary International have signed a partnership agreement. Now, we do not know what that will mean at the Toastmaster Rotary International level, but we at the local level don't have to wait. We can start figuring it out now. One of my club members is a Rotary member as well. He's going to talk to the Rotary officers. We're going to see if we can put together a joint officer meeting so we can talk about how can we work together? How can we benefit you guys? How can you guys benefit us? Mike.
And when you're approaching some other group of people or a club or whatever, it's always, what can we do for you? Not, how can you help us?
Right. What can we do for you? Now, I can tell you, having been a Lion and having talked to some Rotarians, there are a lot of people who have leadership roles in these types of clubs who are horrible leaders. They don't know how to lead a meeting. They don't know how to put together the agenda. They don't know how to keep a meeting on time. Hence, people who join clubs because they're starting in on time. They're horrible leaders. They could really use some training. I know that Rotary sends their officers off for leadership training, but let's face it, a day or two of leadership training and then nothing, no follow-up is not going to work. Toastmasters is a great place for them to learn it. Now, on the flip side, we have all these people in Toastmasters who are developing speaking skills and leadership skills, and yet a lot of us never use them outside of Toastmasters. Why are we learning leadership and speaking if we don't take them out into the real world? Rotary, Lions, Kiwanis, these places give us they have projects that benefit people, that save people's lives. And we have an opportunity to use our leadership skills to benefit our community. So mini demo meetings, you could take them out to your local clubs. We already talked about open houses. Does everybody here, raise your hand if you do not know what a speechcraft is. So everybody here knows what a speechcraft is.
Kyle, never ask somebody to embarrass themselves. How many of you know?
Okay, how many of you know what a speechcraft is? Okay, most people, but not everybody. So the Speechcraft, if you bought the Speechcraft manuals and looked at them, it is based around the old Competent Communicator manual. You can map those into pathways. Projects. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. As a matter of fact, I don't know if any of you remember from the last couple of years, but there's a person who writes the Dear Gabby blog, and Dear Gabby has a blog entry on how to map Speechcraft into pathways. The thing is with Speechcraft, so you put together a typical Speechcraft is 6 to 8 meetings where you get people who are not Toastmasters in, hopefully charging them money for the service, and you teach them public speaking, leadership, how to run a meeting, how to put together a talk, how to evaluate. You teach them all the things you learn in Toastmasters, only in a condensed format, 6 to 8 meetings. And you can configure it any way you want. Some people do it in 4 meetings, some people do it in 8 meetings. There's one guy down in LA who does a 1-day, 10-hour Speechcraft. You can put it together any way you want. The goal is you bring somebody in who wants to learn something. You teach them a little bit. By the end of the Speechcraft, they should feel good that they've learned. They should also realize how bad they really are and how much more they have to learn. And if you charge them, let's say you charge them $50 for 6 one-hour classes. That's more than reasonable. Well, $50, gee, that's just about 6 months' dues. So what you do on the last day when you graduate, you congratulate the heck out of them, you give them a certificate, and you say, by the way, if you want to keep this up, our club meets this same time, this same location, this same day, and if you join now, we'll pay your first 6 months' dues from the money you already gave us. Straight into your club. As I said, there are some clubs that do this every year. Speechcraft is just a part of their marketing. You have to be willing to give up some club meetings to do it. Let me talk about
Okay, Kyle starts this section off talking about the improved personal invitation. And in my opinion, this piece might be the most valuable information in the whole webinar. We all know that the most effective way to get guests to our meetings is through personal invitations, yet we don't see our members bringing in guests as often as we would like. Why? Because it's hard. People are busy. But Kyle's suggestions for asking people to come to support them, as well as asking them to be a mystery shopper, I think those are brilliant. And the bribery method is good too, but it doesn't work as well in the virtual environment because you can't really offer to drive somebody to a Zoom meeting. Kyle returns to the website discussion, mentioning that he did a search for award-winning Toastmasters website. And I just wanted to let you know that I replicated that search and did in fact find club sites worth emulating. And these sites tend to be winners of district contests for best club website, in case you're wondering who's giving out these awards. I wanted to underscore Kyle's point about many demo meetings presented to other service organizations by especially noting, again, the Rotary partnership. Kyle mentions that we don't know a whole lot about the partnership, and even almost a year after Kyle's webinar, we still don't know a whole lot, but we're starting to see some examples trickle out about how Toastmasters and Rotary clubs are interacting with each other. So for the Operation Reignite campaign, you may want to seriously consider Rotary either as a partner in putting on your event or as the audience for your event. And if you need guidance for how to reach out to Rotary, please ask us. Kyle mentioned Speechcraft, which I'll be talking a lot more about in the webinar 2 weeks from now. But if you're not familiar with the program, I would suggest that you take a look at the D9 Speechcraft page that's part of the Operation Reignite package and consider it as your club's campaign event. And again, those URLs are in the chat. And why should you consider Speechcraft? Well, because it's a tried and true method for introducing non-Toastmasters to the program. And because it involves multiple meetings, it gives more of a sense of what Toastmasters is like than a single event does. And for those who miss the CC manual, it's a way to make a little nostalgic visit to the legacy program. And it's your last chance to do that because the Speechcraft is being completely revamped at the end of this year. So you'll never have any more opportunity to dip back into the legacy program. I wanted to mention a couple of items that are on this section of the handout, but that Kyle doesn't talk about. The first is press releases, going back to that idea. Press releases are likely to be ineffective in large metro areas because the media in those cities are probably not very interested in publishing or broadcasting your release. In small rural areas, the opposite is true. Media outlets are usually hungry for content and they will publish just about anything. But we don't have very many clubs in small rural areas in District 9. So as mentioned, press releases will probably be a waste of time for most clubs. However, creating a miniature version of a press release can be useful for one of the other outlets that's on Kyle's handout that he doesn't talk about. He calls them public calendars. I call them community calendars. These are online venues that publish information about events. If you go to Google and type in the name of your club city and the words community calendar, you'll probably see 5 or 6 results. And if you prepare a mini press release of about a paragraph in length that includes the name of the event, the date, the time, the Zoom link, the name of your club, location if you're meeting in person, contact information, and 1 or 2 highlights of the content of the event. Then you can copy and paste all this information into the form for the community calendar. And then there will most likely be a spot for a description of the event, and you can paste the whole paragraph into that spot. So that's what I have for that section. Do we have any questions? Okay, we have just one small section to go.
Yeah, I do have a quick question.
Great.
We have in Nozzle Lake, there is a Rotary Club, but we never really got in contact with them. And
well, maybe you have
my lame excuse is that they meet at noon, and I can't go at noon because I'm working.
Well, maybe there's another opportunity to see what's possible. I mean, you know, maybe your event could be scheduled at a completely different time, you know, not even your regular Toastmasters meeting time or the Rotary meeting time, but a third, you know, option.
Yeah, so that's the struggle, is trying to get a hold of the Rotary person in Rotary to meet together, because I don't know who they are.
Yeah. Well, if you decide that you would really like to target Rotary with your event, get in touch with me, because I know of some people in other districts who are starting to forge these partnerships, and I think I can get some tips and guidance from them and ideas for, you know, how to find the contact people.
Great, that'd be awesome.
I have a question, or actually a comment, but in the days now of Zoom meetings, I would not just limit myself to Wenatchee Community College,
there you go.
not college, community calendar, but, you know, any at Winthrop, Pateras, we really can reach out to a wide area here in the more rural areas. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Good.
We do have one member who attends regularly now. He lives in Winthrop, which he calls the Great White North, but it's really nice to have him back in the flock.
I think I know who that is, but I forget his name.
Dean Carath. He was with the Lab Orators.
I remember when he moved to Winthrop. Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions? All right, let's do that last section.
Small club marketing. How many of you are in a club that's 12 members or less? Okay. One of the problems in small clubs is what I call meeting fatigue. 12 members or less, you have to have a role in every meeting. Often you have more than one role in a meeting. You get tired. You know, if there's 12 of you, 7 of you are officers. So you just get tired. Now we have to plan an open house. Well, that's more work. And we tend to just not want to do it. And that's a very reasonable, understandable thing. So small clubs tend to do less work, less planning around marketing themselves, which is exactly the wrong approach. They need to spend more time planning, not less. Now, when I say more time planning, I'm talking about more time planning, not more time executing. Let me give you an example, and I'm going to go back to the real estate niche. Suppose that we're a small club and we want to target realtors. So we're thinking about it, and we're like, well, we're going to put together a session on how to present a house. Okay, before we do any more work, let's rough up a description of that, and let's go see a couple of brokers. So we go and see a couple of brokers, and we put a description in front of them. We say, if we gave a talk on this subject, do you think your people would want to come? They might go, yeah, or they might go, no. Well, if they go no, we go, thank you, that's useful information. How could we change it? What would help? Well, how about how to find new clients? Oh, how to find new clients. Okay, that's different. Okay, yeah, we could do that. Now you go back and you put together a paragraph on how to find new client, you know, how to offer a program and finding new clients. You go back and put it in front of some brokers. Would your people like this? Yeah, okay. We've taken extra time up front to figure out what we're going to offer before we ever do any of the execution work. So we're not wasting time planning events that people aren't going to show up to. So that's what we need to spend, as I said, more time, not less, more targeted, you know, narrow the niche. Maybe we don't just want real estate people. Maybe we only want commercial real estate people, or maybe we only want residential real estate people. Narrow it down. Maybe we only want real estate people from the east end of town. Test before you go, and that test was.
And also, what helps you, because our club, we get help, we got help. We have 2 coaches.
Great. So yes, getting a coach, and that's actually the last item here, is ask for help. You can get help from neighboring clubs, especially if there's a neighboring club that's big. Ask them, especially if you're holding an event. Ask them to come, but ask your district to get you coaches. The district will not assign a coach to your club. We will find candidate coaches and introduce them to you, and you can interview them and decide whether it works. The club is in complete control. Partner with a larger group. So if you wanted to put on an event and hope to get people there, find another group that has interest in that event. For instance, we're thinking of putting on something, a customer service focused event. We're going to teach people how to deal with difficult people. Classic customer service topic. Well, who would find how to deal with difficult people useful? How about every small business person out there? Oh, well, who are small businesses associated with? Chamber of Commerce. So let's go to the chamber and partner with them and see if we can do something where we'll put together and present the session. Let them market it for us. Let them get their members in the door for us. Also call centers need how to deal with difficult people. Occasionally district directors.
Toastmasters difficult?
Yeah, not usually. The last.
Okay. So in the section about marketing for small clubs, I think Kyle's suggestion to actually ask your target audience if the topic your club is considering for its event would appeal to them is brilliant. I would strongly encourage clubs to do just that in trying to determine what kind of event to put on for this campaign. I also want to underscore the point about partnering with other clubs, especially if your club is small. Kyle calls them neighboring clubs, but since we're mostly meeting virtually, they don't have to be neighboring. You could partner with any club. And again, partnering with another group can be highly effective. I mentioned that when we did Speechcraft in Colville Toastmasters, we did it as a job seeker workshop, and we partnered with WorkSource for that. So that was a really good, effective partnership. So that is it was not the end of the video, as you could probably tell, but the last piece goes back to club quality, which we're getting into next week. So we didn't want to repeat ourselves too much. So that's all I have to offer. And I'm happy to entertain any more questions that we might have.
If you have a question, please unmute yourself.
I just had a quick question about contacting those outside clubs and organizations. If there's a standard way to do that, like besides just a generic business letter, if it's since we're a club, and we're representing the clubs, what's the most effective way to get their attention?
I'm not aware of anything official from Toastmasters or any examples that come from Toastmasters. But that's something that I could certainly look into and build into the web pages that we have for this campaign. I think that's a good thing to look at. Maybe I can come up with a template for a letter that you could use. Good idea.
Thank you. Yeah, and I've tried writing. I've written them up before. I haven't sent them out because I was waiting for consensus from other officers, and it got kind of lost in all the shuffle. But yeah, so I was not really sure if I was going in the right direction, so it made me a little hesitant to really stick my neck out there.
Well, if you'd like to send a copy to me, I'd be happy to take a look at it.
Okay, thank you. I might do that.
I guess I should put my email address into the chat.
Sometimes when I'm looking for ideas like that, I'll just go to Google and type in, some letter to potential whatever. And
That's a great idea.
invariably tons of stuff pops up.
Yeah, it's a fire hose effect where it gets a little like, well, which one do you choose?
Right.
That's what I struggle with, is so many options. Hard for me to edit them down.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Elaine Kelly from Division D.
Hi, Lane.
A lot of times our guests are people that were Toastmasters in some other place at some other time. But when I try to reach out to our past members, I get a lot of crickets. We have such a great pool of past members. Have you had any success marketing that?
Honestly, that's a nut that I have not cracked, and I have definitely experienced that in Colville Toastmasters. You know, we always thought that our people would want to come back. I mean, even if it was just for one event, they would miss us as much as we missed them, and it was always really, really difficult. It was very rare to get a past member at our events, even when we tried very hard to get them. So, you know, that's a problem I have not solved. Maybe somebody else could speak to that. Anybody else has success with bringing back past members?
No, but I have heard that some clubs are getting some past members back that either have moved out of state or snowbirds, that now because of Zoom, they're able to do that. So this might be another time to approach, encouraging, you know, people to come back and visit to see. But I agree, it is hard to get them back. Any other questions for tonight? Well, I know I set it up from 6 to 8 to make sure we have plenty of time, but I know everybody always likes getting out of school early. And so I hope you've enjoyed the time. Spread the word, encourage people to come next week, sign up and come for the club quality piece that we're doing. Victoria Chatterton, you want to say something? I saw you unmuted. I didn't know.
I'm just happy to see how well this is attended. Hello. Oh no, I just wanted to say hello to everybody, and then there was a couple people who wanted to talk to me after the meeting, so I'll stay on.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Well, I want to give a big, huge round of let's give happy hands to Kathy. Thank you so much for putting on this presentation for us tonight. I just really appreciate it very, very, very much. And with that, I'll let you guys go and enjoy the rest of your Friday night. I might make Vicki co-host so she can stay on.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.